Jesus saved my life, and I didn't even know that I needed saving. I was a little girl with special needs, I'd like to say, because I wanted to be loved and taken care of in a certain way. And when that didn't happen, I struggled. It spiraled into tons of emotions. I was just dealing through a lot at this point in life, and hopefully you guys would get to hear more of my story as I continue with this YouTube channel. In this video, I'll be focusing on how Jesus saved my life. I was about 8 or 9 years old and I became very suicidal. I was thinking, what's the point of living if I felt this way? Because nobody could love me in a way that I wanted to be loved. And so I remember one night I took a knife because every other attempt failed. And so at this point I took a knife and I was like, okay, I'm going to sleep with this knife and hopefully by the morning I'd be gone. And it wasn't successful. And so I remember maybe a few days after that, I went into my mom's room and I found a Bible. At this point I was like, okay, maybe this Bible would do something, right? I didn't have much knowledge about God at this point, and prior to that we did go to church, we did pray at church and stuff, but that was it. And yeah, so for maybe about a month or so I cried out to God. I was crying every night, talking to this Bible like, please help me. And I didn't know if God was hearing me or anything, but I used to shout and just cry. And so yeah, probably after a month or so, the suicidal thoughts stopped. And so I kind of just continued. And yeah, and again, as I said, I didn't have much knowledge of God. So I didn't even point it to him that he's the one that helped me through that point at this age. And so in high school, I was in grade 9 and my best friend invited me to church. And during the service, there was an altar call that was made and I saw everyone flocking to the front and I was like, oh, okay, let me just follow. And so I remember doing the salvation prayer. Again, I didn't know the weight of this decision that I had made, so I went on with life like nothing had happened. And so I guess God was like, oh, you still didn't get it, right? And so the following year, the Lord made it happen that I stayed with this friend of mine, and they were a Christian family, so we'd go to church every day and stuff. So the first church service, the pastor preached again. There was an altar call. I saw everyone flocking to the front. I was like, okay, let's go. And so this time a lady came up to me and she was like, hey, this is a really good decision that you have made. And I looked at her very confused and I was like, what are you talking about? And she was like, don't worry, just start coming back to church, join the youth, and you'll start learning more about God and you'll be fine. And so I was like, oh, okay. And so just because of the family that I was in, we'd go to church, we'd go to youth meetings, and I started learning about God. And I was like, oh, there's God, you know. And I didn't even link him to what had happened when I was like 9 years old. And so, you know, at that point I also had my own plans of what I would do after high school and stuff. And so I came to university and I just became a lukewarm Christian. I was doing my own thing, and again I was still trying to find that love and that care in many different things, and they didn't cater for it. And so I was kind of living that double standard life. And I remember like some friends would be like, oh, Benji, you're not like those other Christians that are uptight and whatever. But the reality is that you can't have it both ways. And so I remember 2014, the Lord was like, Benji, you need to choose. You either walk in darkness or you walk in light. And I was like, okay, God, I'll get my life together, whatever. So I remember we took a trip to the north. It was a school trip, and I was sitting with a friend in a bar, and so we were drinking, and he's like, Benji, aren't we the ones that are supposed to be reaching out to these people, yet we have become one of them? And he said, listen, when we return back to Windhoek, we need to change, you know. And I was like, yeah, okay, cool, that's gonna happen. And so upon returning, I remembered that my cousin was getting married, and so that weekend that we traveled back, I was like, okay, God, I just need one last weekend. Just give me this last weekend. So we went to that wedding. I chilled out that whole weekend. I came back on Sunday, and like I was probably half drunk, and so I later met in the living room, and I was like, okay, God, since you so badly want me, here I am. I slept, and you know what, when I woke up, I thought I was gonna have like a hangover or something, but there was just a transformation that happened. Like I felt like a new creation, and so that was the first day to my life now. So that's just kind of how my journey went with God, from saving me from committing suicide and just continue living, not even being aware of God, and going to church the first time, giving my life to Christ, not knowing what I've done, and the following year Him making provision for me to live with this family. You know, that was just like all God orchestrating my life for me to come to fully know Him and know that what I've been lacking, you know, the love that I've been wanting and the care that I've wanted my whole life, I could find it in Him. And so that's just kind of how the Lord gave me purpose. And it was so hard for me to accept God's love. So that's another story for another day. But to really know that, man, there's someone that truly loves me. That was truly life-changing. And so that's just kind of how, it's just my story of how the Lord saved me. I pray this is a blessing to someone that might be going through similar things, to know that, hey, there's a God just who wants to love you and care for you the way that you deserve. So yeah, why don't you like, subscribe, and do all the shebangs. And yeah, and I'll leave my Gmail as well, my email in the description. So if you want to reach out and just have a discussion with me, or you maybe want to give your life to Jesus or something, you want to find meaning, you can reach out to me. God bless you.